Welcome to the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast, the place that brings together experts on what's now, what's new, and what's next in marketing for industrial manufacturers. Now here's the owner of Trew Focus Media and your host, Jeff Long.
Welcome back to another episode of the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast. My name is Jeff Long from Trew Focus Media, and I have an amazing guest today, Wendy Covey of Trew Marketing. Now, we spell ours different. Mine is T-R-U-E. Hers is T-R-E-W. Fun thing there. But we're going to be talking about, obviously, industrial marketing, but something I'm very excited for is the Industrial Marketing Summit coming up in Austin, Texas. Now, if you're listening to this after February of 2025, definitely check back for the next summit that will be happening in future years. Now, I had the privilege of attending one of these summits a few years ago, and it was wonderful, and it was so fun just meeting new people, meeting existing people that I've already known in the marketing space, as well as the fantastic content, and we'll talk about that. And then also I'm going to the summit this year, so hopefully I'll be able to see some of you that are there in attendance. But Wendy and I dive deep into some of the topics that we'll talk about in the summit, as well as how that applies to us as marketers. So it's not just going to be a summit promo piece here, although we will dive into it a lot. She also gives a sneak peek at some of the research that they'll be rolling out during the summit. So we go in this episode, we talk about AI and some of the challenges and opportunities there are for us industrial marketers. She talks about video and content marketing and what opportunities there are in that space. So we'll get into that, but let me read Wendy's bio here. Wendy Covey is a CEO, a technical marketing leader, author of Content Marketing Engineered, one of the Wall Street Journal's 10 most innovative entrepreneurs in America, and she holds a Texas fishing record, which my daughter was very impressed about, by the way, and we talk about that in this episode. With 25 years as a marketing leader in engineering, design, and manufacturing, Wendy knows the key to building trust and converting technical buyers is understanding their pain and developing compelling technical content that leads to a solution. Through her company, Trew Marketing, Wendy has helped hundreds of engineering and technical companies become trusted advisors, growing sales pipelines, and increase market share through content marketing. All right, welcome to the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast. I'm here with my friend Wendy Covey of Trew Marketing. Wendy, thanks so much for being on here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Hey, Jeff.
Hi. You know, I've been on your podcast. We've talked online. We've all this stuff, and it's always exciting. But what I really like is when people get to meet in person, right? And so we're going to be talking about how to do that in one of the best scenarios for industrial marketers with the Industrial Marketing Summit. So give me a little bit of background on the summit and what people can look forward to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, and it's getting really close. Time is drawing near, so we need Texas to warm up and stay warm for all you folks coming from Ohio and everywhere else that are ready for a break from that. But a quick backstory on the summit. So originally, Content Marketing World held a one-day industry event. So they had different industry verticals, and one of those was focused on industrial. And over the years, I've spoken, other, connections, people in my network have spoken. And so several of us got together and said, you know what? We feel like there's an appetite for more than just one day of content here. We feel like there's an opportunity to build a community specific for marketers in engineering and manufacturing. So why don't we break away, still support Content Marketing World because that's an amazing event. But at the same time, let's do this multi-day event that sits on its own and is really tailored to this community. So 2024 was the first time we held the event. We had over 200 attendees from all over, mainly the United States. I think we have one or two from Canada. We didn't see anybody from Europe yet, but we're going to work on that. But we gathered together for 2 days, and the biggest thing we heard was, "I found my people." And when we heard that takeaway, we knew we were onto something.
Yeah, that's so good. And as you're talking, I was at how many of them were at Content Marketing World? Was it one or two?
More than that, but it
Okay.
went by different names over the
Okay.
years. So
Yeah.
I think our first time to speak there was 2017,
Okay.
somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
I think I went to the one. We'll just throw out 2022 or so, give or take a year or
Yeah,
so.
post-COVID. Where it's like pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Exactly. It was post-COVID, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it was finding my people and talking with individuals like you as well as marketers that are coming from their marketing department, that work at industrial and manufacturing companies. It was just wonderful. Um, and so, talk to me a little bit about how your company, True Marketing, fits in with that. Give me a little background, even about who True Marketing is and what you provide, and then your background with the Industrial Marketing Summit.
Okay, so I am the co-founder of True, and we started 17 years ago in '08. And previous to that, myself and the co-founder, Rebecca Geyer, we were colleagues at a company called National Instruments, or NI, which is now part of Emerson. And NI pretty much exclusively sells to engineers. They were really big in test and measurement and control and automation, and in also engineering programming software. So she and I held a vast, all kinds of different leadership positions there. But we saw a need for the small to mid-sized businesses that were partners with NI and couldn't afford a full-time marketing staff. We saw the need to go and help them. Their websites were horrific. They didn't understand modern marketing, and so that was our first set of customers, were mainly system integration companies in that space, helping them be successful. And then over the years, our business has really branched out to other types of engineering companies, such as software, electronic components, semiconductor, robotics. So we've definitely expanded. But where we like to focus is telling that complex story and reaching that technical buyer. So that's where we shine as an agency.
Yeah, that's so good. And I was on your website earlier today, and I think one of the stats on your video, maybe even you mentioned it, was the typical industrial type buyer looks at, is it what, 17 pieces of content? Is that correct? Maybe
Yes.
more. So talk to me
Yes.
about that. How they're hungry
Yeah.
for knowledge and detailed information, and so how does True kind of help with that?
That's exactly right. These engineers need information from sources they can trust to do their job effectively. And we're in really interesting times right now because you have generative search, right? And these answers are just served up and they're sort of generic. And that's troubling to engineers that really need to get it right. They need to be able to understand where this information came from, what the source is. And they're looking for companies that not only have products or services that may fit their needs, but also understand their application. So we've found that content that speaks to that engineer on both levels performs really well. So, the other statistic along with this is engineers spend more than 60% of the buyer's journey online before they wanna reach out and engage with sales. So it's same thing. What are they doing online? They're doing their research, they're looking for content, they're getting education.
Yeah. And I find that is, still so many industrial companies just even don't have information online, or it's so minimal, or it's gated, or and so I appreciate you, and that's, what I do as well, is kind of preach the benefits of having that very specialized content on there that, yeah, you just can't get from a generic Google search because it's not, helpful.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Now there's a troubling trend that we've
Mm,
seen, which is plagiarized content.
mm,
And, people grabbing competitors' content
mm,
or whatever and just throwing it into a large language model
yeah.
and creating something that is not reflective of their brand, not authentic to who they are. sometimes there's big errors in it. We've seen company names repeated on somebody else's website, right? They didn't even bother to change that. And so because of that, Jeff, you'll be happy to hear that there's a big movement towards video because you know that this is authentic content from someone at that company. You see their face, you can tell it's authentic. So it's interesting times in the world of content marketing right now.
It really is. It really is. So that's interesting. Is even with the Industrial Marketing Summit, then what are some of the topics that are going to be discussed, maybe from even a high level, or some of the keynotes and things like that? Just knowing we're in such a unique period of time as far as industrial marketing.
We sure are. We sure are. I mean, that's where we started in putting together the program, is writing down what are the topics we know are mega trends or hot buttons. What do we have to cover? And AI, of course, was at the top of the list. And so I'm so excited that Paul Reitzer, who's the founder of the Marketing AI Institute, is our keynote speaker. And it was a bit of a coup to get his attention. He's big in demand, but we at Trew Marketing were an early on HubSpot partner, along with PR 2020, Paul's old agency, and they were the first HubSpot partner. So Paul and I go way back. So I leaned on our relationship a little bit. Come on, Paul, please. And but he gets it, right? He gets AI more deeply than any of us do, but also understands the world of marketing and how we need to pivot because of it. And sort of related to that, SEO, like what do we do with SEO in the face of generative AI search, but also preparing for AI agents or agentic AI, whichever word you want to use. And we're going to have to optimize for two things, for these agents that are coming to our website, as well as the actual human personas, our ICPs that are coming as well. So it's going to be interesting times for marketers, and we're going to really need to be paying attention and agile. We need to pivot quickly as these changes come about. So those aren't the only things we're talking about, but those are two big things so far. What do you think, Jeff? Are you interested in those topics?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, just this much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can really do 2 days just on those, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't think I mentioned this. I'm coming, so to the listener, watcher there, I'm
Yeah.
super excited. And that's one of the reasons why, I wanted to have you, Wendy, on, was to talk
Yeah.
about some of these things and just, it's one thing to go to the website, which they should definitely do, but to hear the
Yes.
excitement and passion in your voice, I think is takes it to another level.
Oh my gosh. I have so much excitement and passion for this.
Right.
And
Right.
and we could talk all day about all the sessions. I mean, the best thing to do, obviously, is go to the website, look through them all, but I'll just mention a couple other things. There are 2 tracks that run concurrently. One is strategy and branding, and the other one is tactical excellence. And within that, you have everything from creating marketing strategy, content plans, what web is in there, videos in there, industrial marketing practitioners just talking about what's working. We have a session on measurement. And then there are 3 panels that focus on pretty diverse subjects. So we've one about taking the friction out of the buyer's journey. That one's going to be online, e-commerce, how to self-serve, things like that. We have another one on recruiting and culture. So as we know, there's a huge generational shift happening with industrial companies. So how can we as marketers understand what's happening and help the company in recruiting and defining the culture, retaining young employees, that sort of thing. And then we have a third panel on working within the channel. So many industrial companies work with distributors and they work with sales rep organizations. So how can the companies within the channel work together to help amplify their marketing, in various different ways? So
Yeah, that's so good. And you kind of briefly mentioned this towards the beginning when you were talking about the summit, finding your people, right? And I think yes, the keynotes, the sessions, the panels, I mean, are going to be amazing. Yes, but like the lunches and happy hours and hangouts and in the hallways, like, to me, that's where a lot of the magic happens, is where you can just connect with people, talk about problems, what you're excited about, what's going on, and just make amazing connections. So
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And I know that a lot of people coming are maybe the only one from their company, and that can be intimidating walking into this environment where some people know each other, like you and I, Jeff, like we've
Right.
seen each other before, we're, and all of that. And so we're trying to do some things to facilitate
Mm,
those connections, things like table assignments and table
mm,
topics and, mixing people up where you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're not with your buddy.
right.
So think, table like, oh, Jeff, you're at table number 8 and let's all have a topic or let's at least introduce ourselves. And you're walking into that first social event with 8 new friends that
That's
you didn't
so
know
good.
before.
I love that idea because, I'm
Yeah.
involved in several different like manufacturing associations or networking or different things. And let's be honest, sometimes manufacturing and industrial people, especially if it's heavy in the engineers, they're not always people persons, right? And so there's sometimes it takes some time for certain people to kind of come out of their shell. Even me sometimes
Yeah.
when you're feeling a little
Yeah.
awkward. I know some marketers are more outgoing and whatnot, but not all of them, of course. And so I really like that attention to detail that
Yeah.
not everybody's going to feel I don't know, the friendship and relationships that others do. So I really like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Good. Cool.
Now, you mentioned to me before we hit record here about some kind of research stuff that you're going to be announcing and talking through. Tell me what that is and give me some sneak peeks if you can.
Yeah. So we are about to publish our 8th annual State of Marketing to
Mm,
Engineers research report. This is an annual project. It's a big, intensive project that we do with Global Spec. And what it does is study how engineers and technical buyers seek and consume information to make purchase decisions.
mm,
So that's everything from, what are the information sources they turn to?
mm,
What does their social media use look like?
mm,
What do they watch videos and how
mm,
often? How about podcasts? We talk about newsletters. So what we do in this report is there's some benchmarking questions. We ask exactly the same every year
mm,
to get trends over
mm,
time. And then we sneak in new questions based on just what the environment looks like.
mm,
And so some of the new questions we snuck in last year that are coming back this year have to do with AI.
mm,
What are you using generative AI to make purchase decisions or to research for purchase? Do you trust answers that come out
mm,
of generative AI? So those are the types of things you'll see in the report. So because you're coming to the summit, Jeff, you get a sneak peek a week early,
Oh, nice.
but the report will officially launch in early March. So that's the
Mm,
following week. And one more thing to mention
mm,
about it, we also have a collaboration with Elector,
mm,
which is a media company focused in electronics out of Europe. And they came in and helped to bring a more global audience to the research report. And so their support's been wonderful too. So I'll be actually going over to Embedda World in March to present the research over in Germany.
Nice, nice. So, is there anything you can talk about in that report? AI, for example. I mean, there's so much to talk about, but what maybe
Yeah.
stands out, or what trends are you seeing in regards to AI?
Yeah, there's definitely still some skepticism and lack of
Ooh.
trust. It's interesting, and I don't want to give away all of it, but it's interesting to look at the regional differences
Oh,
on
interesting.
attitudes towards
Mm,
AI.
mm,
So last year, we really focused on AI tools. In this year's
mm,
report, we're focused on generative AI
mm,
specifically, because I feel for marketers, that's the most disruptive,
mm,
right? Is looking at, are they going to Google? Or are they going to
mhm,
generative AI?
sure.
And where are people researching? And I'm sure there's like, a million questions we could have asked along these lines. So Jeff,
Yeah,
I'd be interested for the future if you have any ideas what we could ask along these
totally.
lines
Totally.
of just
Well, it's
AI use
interesting.
and
Even
attitudes.
I don't know how your podcast is, but AI, of course, comes up in mine, and I feel like so many marketers they're using it, they feel bashful about it, and they're kind of like, they don't feel like they're an expert. They're overwhelmed by it, right? So it's kind of like this, "Hey, we're dabbling in it. Maybe I shouldn't even say that out loud or whatever." So I don't know if
Yeah, right, right. Was my job still okay?
exactly, yeah,
Is
like, is
it
that
okay with the
cheating?
company? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it again, we're in such a unique time where, so many tools are available, And especially in the industrial space, that they get it wrong a lot, or it just comes out weird and stuff like that. And so,
Yeah.
what guidance do you give when you're talking to maybe these small marketing teams about AI? Is it dive in? Is it be careful? Is it
It is
where are you on that?
absolutely dive in.
Mm,
It is not it is no longer okay
mm,
to ignore it or just sort of dabble here and there. You need to get serious about
mm,
understanding it, what it can do,
mm,
and this should be the year. So the theme for my agency is we've had 2 years of
mm,
experimentation and piloting, and now we need to
mm,
systematize certain aspects of what we do and how we're using AI. And I agree. I mean, like, I get what you're saying about people feeling bashful about it, but
mm,
instead, we need to be very upfront with how we're using it and help each other grow, right? So I can't wait at the summit to just hear all the use cases
mm,
and what people are doing and what they're finding effective and also what really sucks,
mm,
because there's some really bad stuff too, like the plagiarism thing I mentioned earlier. So it's important to learn, do it in the right way, but you can't stick your head in the sand or you're gonna be maybe out of a job, right?
sure,
It's
sure.
it's that important. And then one more thing, this has cracked me up, but, I had a young Gen Zer on my podcast, and I asked her about AI, and she said, "You know what? If my company doesn't allow me to use it, I'm not gonna work there anymore."
Mm,
I mean, that's like cutting off an appendage for me.
wow.
That was her attitude. And so if you think about these new grads coming out of
Mm,
college, they're using it, right?
mhm.
They're way more proficient than maybe we are, Jeff. And
Right,
so
right,
imagine now the company is like, yeah, we don't do that here.
right.
That's not going to fly. So if you want the best of the best coming out
Mm,
of universities to fill your positions, no matter what they are, you need to get on board and then figure out your policy of making it safe and private and, all the things.
that's so good. Yeah, and I find that, kind of the Gen Xer and older crowd, new technology, new stuff. Yeah, it's intimidating, overwhelming. What do we do?
Yeah.
Maybe they've heard horror stories, and so they're more resistant to it at times. Whereas, the younger generations are like, yeah, we've been using it. Like, what's the problem here? Why
You
are you
figure it out.
handcuffing me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to that report. You mentioned the video component. I'm obviously a big video fanatic. So talk to me about where you see video going with content marketing, with marketing and
Yeah.
sales, and everything in between.
Yeah. So in the report, one of the benchmarking things is, do you watch videos for work?
Hmm.
And it's like, I don't 97%, 98%, pretty much 100%.
Yeah.
And that's weekly.
Hmm.
And then at different times we've asked, how many hours do you watch
Hmm.
videos? So that's increasing. This year we focused on YouTube a little
Hmm.
bit more deeply, and we were trying to seek, okay, where are you going to watch video? Are
Hmm.
you going to a search engine and video shows up and then you click on the video? Or are you going straight to YouTube? Because we know YouTube is still the second largest
Hmm.
search engine behind Google for now.
Hmm.
Be interesting to have that
Right.
conversation at the end of the year. And then what about watching video on somebody's
Hmm.
website? So you'll see some of those results in the report. But for me personally, and for
Hmm.
True, our attitude is, like I mentioned earlier, you need to build spokespeople within your
Hmm.
organization. And these don't need to be just executives. They can be at
Hmm.
different levels of the company. But then within those people, think about what they should be talking about,
Hmm.
how often, and not to be shy about getting in front of the camera because, again, that's the way you build your personal brand. That's the way to prove that it's
Hmm.
authentic content. And then you can still repurpose that content
Hmm.
into print, but maybe we need to flip the script a little bit, right? Instead of starting with print, always think about when it makes sense to start with video. Does really well on LinkedIn, really well on YouTube, and that would help you with SEO as well.
Right. That's so good, and it reminds me. I had a conversation on this podcast a few episodes previous with Tim Wilborn about scripted versus non-scripted, right?
Ah,
Videos
interesting.
specifically, and so I, being the video guy that I am, like, yes, there's a time and a place for scripted videos where it's more product promos or company promos where you're trying to put kind of this best foot forward. But for a lot of videos, that authentic component is critical. And so I find that most people, including me, sometimes when I'm on camera and I know like the pressure's on, it gets a little intimidating. But if I have somebody like asking me questions about me as the subject matter expert, like it makes it so much easier. So I find
Yes.
that a lot of people, they don't love being on camera, including me, but yeah, it lowers the anxiety when you're just kind of having a conversation or just talking about your expertise. And of course, you're gonna make a little, ums and ahs and mistakes and things like that. But there's that authentic piece. And so,
Yeah.
how do you, there at True, kind of balance that authentic versus scripted and perfect? What have you
Yeah.
found works on your side?
You described it so
Mm,
perfectly. There's a time and a place
mm,
for that tight script, right? These formal and I'd throw in another example, kind of the company overview, things like that, where it needs to be pretty buttoned up.
yeah.
And what we're doing for these other in between ones is identifying, okay, what is the content theme, right? What is
Mm,
this campaign? Is it a new, let's say it's a new industry standard
mm,
for power generation.
mm,
Okay, so this industry standard, that's the theme. What are all the different topics related to the standard and related to our products or services that we can talk about? So
cool.
let's next identify those topics. And then, subject matter expert or experts, which of these do you feel comfortable talking about?
Mm,
Okay, then let's parse out, how do we want to use that content? How is it best packaged?
mm,
And then let's go to town. Let's get you in front of the camera and let's knock out a couple of these
mm,
topics, and we can put them together into a series. We can have them individually up on social media as a post. They could drive to a white paper that's
mm,
also about that standard. So maybe there's a great gated call to action
mm.
where all that ends. So, in other words, we see it as an integrated campaign, not just like somebody, oh, I think today I'm going to talk about X, right? There
Right.
still needs to be some strategic thought that goes into it.
That's so good. That's so good. Recently, we did some content with a subject matter expert, and and she was really nervous, kind of the first time she had been on camera in this capacity, right? And so a lot of
Yeah.
nerves there. And we coached her through, and she did wonderful, and she was pleased with it. And so once it was done and finalized, she emailed me and said, "Hey Jeff, can you send me those files? Like I want to save them and show my kids as they get older," type of thing. And I'm like, "Oh my word, like
Aw.
it I've been doing this 22 years. I haven't realized, maybe to that extent how much that can mean to somebody to showcase
Yeah.
their expertise and to, yeah, just kind of, yeah, just have not only the company see that they're the expert, but the world in essence, and that can mean a lot. So sometimes when we get beyond the nerves and we can understand even the emotions, how much that can, I don't know, mean to people. So that was really
That is
special.
so sweet. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, last couple things here.
Okay.
Um, you mentioned, some of the people coming to the summit are maybe from small marketing teams, maybe one, two people, things like that. How do you feel like marketing teams are maybe kind of quote unquote doing it wrong these days as far as their approach or misunderstandings or where are they struggling these
Yeah.
days?
I had a book author come onto my podcast recently. We found her at Content Marketing World, and she wrote a book on change. And she's been on the corporate side of
Mm,
marketing. She's been on the agency side, and a few things that she said really stood out. And she said, stop doing unworkable work or
mm,
assigning unworkable
mm,
work. And so she said that marketers are getting overwhelmed with trying to keep up with all of the ways in which
mm,
marketing is changing, all of the new tech that's in front of us, right? Like the
mm,
freight train coming at us, but still needing to cover our day-to-day job. And oh, by the way, you work for this really technical company. You don't have an engineering
sure.
background and you're struggling to just
Mm,
keep up with what do we do and
mm,
what's this new product and what's this new application? It's a lot.
mm,
It's a lot for these marketers. And so leadership needs to understand
mm,
and respect the position
mm,
and give them time
mm,
for thinking and understanding and not oversign.
mm.
So I see a lot of burnout. I see a lot of one or two person teams of very large companies, like think over $500 million companies.
Mm,
I've seen that. And staff appropriately, but then set appropriate expectations.
Mm.
And then marketers need to set better boundaries and say, okay, product manager or
Mm.
company president or whoever it is, we can do that thing. And I understand it's a part of the business, but what are we giving up?
Mm.
There needs to be a trade-off here. Time is not infinite. So
Right.
that's probably the biggest one. And that's not just a small company problem. That's just
Mm.
across marketing right now.
Yeah. That's really good. I hadn't thought of it in that way. Almost that like humanitarian or compassion side of things, right? It's like, I
Yeah.
mean, we know everybody, in any company is busy and has a lot, they're getting pulled to and back and forth. But, just having that compassion because, yeah, I mean, marketing in a way sits between, sales and engineering and, the executive levels.
Right.
And so many people are kind of pulling at their attention and requirements and throwing things at them. Plus, like you said, they're trying to do their job. They're trying to learn the next thing, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
it's just good leadership, and to just expect, oh, there's this ChatGPT thing,
Mm.
like I guess go figure it out, but you still need to do your, your 15 trade shows and these new launches and I know video is important, and I
Right.
mean, just
And
like
I've even
wow,
had, clients that, have to, their marketing people have to go out to the warehouse and kind of like offload some trucks occasionally and, stuff like
wow,
that.
yeah, yeah,
It's
or
like, oh my
order
word.
swag and
Right.
figure out T-shirt sizes or plan company events and
Yeah.
so, yeah, just really prioritizing and focusing on quality and not just quantity. I think that the if you're just on this treadmill of just tactical getting activities done as soon as possible, those are the people that are going to cut some corners,
Huh.
and they're gonna be the ones that use ChatGPT the wrong way, that hurts your brand and erodes trust because you're just trying to crank stuff out
Mm,
and you're not doing a good job or a quality job.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to ask this question because I love the responses people get. And so, if what would you recommend if a industrial company had an extra 20,000 they could spend for marketing this year? Now, I understand for some companies 20,000 is a drop in the bucket. 20,000 is like, oh my word, we get 20,000. Like, what are
Yeah.
some of the things?
Oh,
Let's talk about maybe that small to medium sized manufacturer. What
yeah.
what might they spend it on this with this magical 20K?
Wow. That is hard to answer without knowing 2 things. Their goals and what's working
Mm,
for them
nice.
and what's not. I think a big area that's overlooked is messaging
Mm,
and value proposition.
mm,
And if you don't have that truly down where it's resonating with your customers, then it doesn't matter if you put an
mm,
extra 20 grand in advertising, or trade shows or webinars or whatever that tactic is, if you don't have that message right. So I would look there first to make sure that that's tight. That even affects sales, right? And
right.
how effective they are as well.
And
So
as well as anybody, like, I go in and doesn't sometimes even matter the size. Im I've been shocked, I guess is the word I'm looking for, go into a large company and kind of ask some key questions and they don't know, yeah, their ideal, customer persona. They don't know just some of their metrics, and they're just kinda staring at you like, I don't know, like, "Does anybody know this? Bob? Jane?" So,
yeah.
um, having having that foundation is so key
Mhm.
so that you're on the right track is
Yeah.
critical.
You know how it comes across to us is somebody will say, "We need a website redesign." And we're gonna be like, "Okay." And we'll open their website and, you and I, we've seen horrific industrial websites, right? But say in this case, we open it up, we're like, "Well, this didn't happen. I mean, it's okay,
Mm,
but we've seen way worse. This is bad. Why is it bad? Why do they want this
mm,
redesign?" And then you get them on the phone and, well, it's not performing. Why isn't it
mm,
performing? Well, the messaging and the content is just way off. And so that project isn't about a website at
mm.
all. But that's so typical. That's probably at least half of my calls for website redesign end up being content projects.
Interesting. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so as we land the plane here, I like to ask, what's a favorite tool that you're using either personally or in your company these days for marketing? And I'm kind of leaving it broad and open ended, but what's a tool, kind of one
Mm.
of your go to tools these days?
Yeah. we're still HubSpotters
Mm.
after all these years.
Yeah.
That's our go-to tool. And
Yeah.
so anytime we think about doing something new or the shiny new object or whatever, we first look and say, wait, did HubSpot add this? Is it somewhere? Because it's hard to keep track, even as we've been HubSpot partners for 15 years now.
Wow.
It's still hard to keep. I mean, they are cranking stuff out. So um, my advice to people listening, whether you're HubSpot or not, definitely look to your own tools
Mm.
first when you consider new tech for your company, because a lot of these platforms are adding very quickly to keep up.
Good. That's good. Well, hey, for us to get to know you a little bit better as we close up here, tell me what's one thing about you, maybe on the personal side,
Okay.
that our audience can get to know you a little bit better with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm an empty nester now, and I spend most of my recreational time in two ways,
Mm.
and they both have to do with my shoulder, which is probably why I had a rotator cuff surgery a couple of years ago, which is pickleball and fishing.
Oh, nice.
And I'm a little bit famous in Texas, just slightly, for holding a state fishing record, which is pretty cool.
Really? So tell
Yeah.
me more. My 10-year-old daughter loves fishing, loves it, loves it.
Yes.
So tell me
Yes.
more about your record there.
So it's bay fishing. So think within the flats, that area, not deep sea fishing. I actually have a women's fishing team, and we do a few tournaments a year. So we're fishing for redfish or red drum, depending on the region. They call it different things. So redfish, trout, flounder, black drum. That's what we fish for on lighter tackle. And it's super fun.
Mm.
And I love just being out in nature. And I don't know, it's exciting. I try to get down on the coast as much as I
I
can.
love it. That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, Wendy, as we close up here, first of all, thank you for being on the Industrial Marketing Leaders podcast, and tell the listeners and viewers, where can they learn more about you and True Marketing, as well as the Industrial Marketing Summit?
Yeah. So industrialmarketingsummit.com. So that's an easy one. There are still tickets available for the events. So come and join us. It's going to be a great time. And then as far as True Marketing, it's trewmarketing.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. It's a great place. And DM me if you'd like to talk. And when the research report will come out early March, and that'll be on our website. So you can find it there. We'll have a webinar, podcast, all that good stuff too.
Well, good. Well, good. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It was fun.
Well, there you go. I hope you liked that interview with Wendy Covey. And if you're like me, I'm excited for the summit. Again, if you watch or listen to this after February of 2025, definitely check back at the Industrial Marketing Summit website, industrialmarketingsummit.com, for more information. And I'm curious to know, where are you and your company in AI? Are you using it? Are you kind of dipping your toes in it? Or somewhere in between? And then, like Wendy mentioned, the importance of video content, whether it's the authentic content that showcases people's expertise, or more of the scripted piece of content that's necessary to be promotional for products in your company and about us and things like that. So both are needed, but I think there's tremendous opportunities for companies to gain with their SEO, have content for their social media, their website, blog, email marketing, video, and so many other distribution channels. Hey, I would love if you would like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify or listening on Apple Podcasts or somewhere else. I'd be honored if you'd like and subscribe. If you're able to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or somewhere else, that would mean the world to me. So keep coming back here to the Industrial Marketing Leaders podcast. I have future shows lined up that I know you're going to love about various topics that industrial marketing leaders care about. All right, thanks so much. Keep coming back for more.